The Play Action podcast is fueled by Picasso's Pizza, where every night is pizza night.
Injuries are mounting on the Buffalo Bills defense. What does that mean for the team moving forward?
The Bills offense has evolved a lot in the 2 years since Brian Daboll left town. We talk about where it stands entering Sunday's game.
And we'll look at the New York Giants as a whole and how they match up with the Bills. The Play Action podcast starts now. Now, the Bills are coming off a tough loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars in London, but the bigger issue, I would say, is all the mounting injuries, particularly on the defense. Mark, what do you think this Bills defense can look like moving forward when they're just losing player after player?
Well, I think the good news is the Sabres season starts on Thursday. So, Sabres on the warpath, and they're going to be great. They could make the playoffs even. So, no, seriously, it's a Trey White, Matt Milano, Daquan Jones. It's devastating. And I think that the Bills certainly are not the Super Bowl favorite in the AFC anymore. And I think it's a coin toss on whether they're even the AFC East favorite with Miami. I think it's neck and neck with Miami. I think that Daquan Jones was playing great, but they do have a guy behind him, Poona Ford, who started 64 games in the NFL at a pretty good level. The issue is the playmaking ability. The biggest issue, playmaking ability of Milano and Trey White is, it's something you just can't replace. That being said, the season is not over. And I'm going to be writing about this week that, they still have talent on defense. And let's remember, Kansas City won the Super Bowl last year without a dominant defense. They were 16th, I think, in scoring defense. They went to the Super Bowl. They've gone to Super Bowl in other years where they were middle of the pack on defense. So, yes, the job got harder, but the Bills still have Josh Allen, and they're going to need some breaks. But Sean McDermott, it's on him to coach him up and make this a decent defense, and they have far and away enough talent to be the 15th best scoring defense in the league.
The Bills put Matt Milano and Daquan Jones on injured reserve on Wednesday morning. Earlier this week, Sean McDermott didn't want to say they were officially done for the season, but those are both injuries that take quite a while to come back from. So, either way, they're proceeding without them at this point. They signed linebacker A.J. Klein, who spent a lot of time with the Bills and with Sean McDermott onto the roster, and they've designated Baylon Spector to return. But still, there's a huge hole to fill for Matt Milano. He's such a key part of this defense. I think a lot of what he does goes kind of almost unnoticed in how good he is. Mark, just kind of your thoughts on Matt Milano, what he does for this defense when he's playing at the level he's been, especially as of late. It's been, I think, another level.
Yeah, it's the playmaking with both him and Trey White. Trey White, the interception on the goal line in Washington. Milano, he stops single-handedly, will stop 2 drives a game or 1 drive a game, by shooting a gap and giving you a -3 tackle for loss. That hurts. There's no question about it. They're going to give up more yards than they would have. The key is to, just come up with a way to get stops. So yards don't matter, get stops. And that's what Kansas City's defense has done during its last 5-year run under Steve Spagnuolo. Yes, they give up yards. Yes, they do give up more points than the Bills. But Steve Spagnuolo finds a way to get a stop, a couple third down stops with simulated pressures. I think we'll see. We'll see what they did. They split Dorian Williams, or first they had Dorian Williams, then they put in Terrell Dotson. Fine, whatever they want to do. But I think they should force feed Dorian Williams snaps. I don't care whether he starts or not. He's got talent. He's got speed. He just looks the part. You know what I mean? His body.
plug him, force him into the lineup, make it a job share, give him steps, let him grow on the job.
Yeah, to your point on Matt Milano, just his instincts really brought so much to this defense. His interception against the Raiders earlier this year is one of the more absurd plays I've watched and rewatched, honestly. Each time I still was like, how did he do this? So it's a big task, but to your point, the injuries happen in the league. This is an unfortunate stretch for the Bills, though. They also were banged up at corner going into this game. Obviously, without Tre'Davious, then Christian Benford was unable to go, so had Dane Jackson, Kaiir Elam. I don't think Christian Benford will miss too much time. He was questionable headed into the game, but still, it was just as the game proceeded, so many guys either entered hurt, got hurt early, left for a bit. It was a really rough stretch from an injury standpoint.
Yeah, and as we saw against Jacksonville, I mean, in 2021, they made a stretch run without Trey White and with, Levi Wallace and Dane Jackson starting at cornerback. So Benford and Jackson will be the starters. I still think they should give Kaiir Elam snaps. They pulled him late in the game against Jacksonville. But as you saw against a number one receiver without Trey White, Calvin Ridley, an elite receiver, is going to get his catches. I mean, so be it. So be it. They got to find a way to get some stops, and the offense is going to have to pick it up. Brian Daboll, beloved former Bills offensive coordinator, returns to town this Sunday night with the New York Giants, which puts a spotlight on the Bills offense, which has been mostly great, but has struggled with turnovers against the Jets due to Josh Allen, and on third down conversions, 3 and outs against Jacksonville. Katherine, let's discuss the state of the offense right now.
Yeah, this matchup with Brian Daboll feels a little different than when they first announced the schedule, just given where the Giants are at. We'll talk a little bit more about them in the third segment, but I think still just kind of the in-your-faceness of a character like Brian Daboll, who Bills fans still love so much, coming back into town after a game where the offense, struggled to maintain drives, to stay on the field, just didn't look like what the Bills offense had been even just a week prior. I know there's other factors, but just a weird game for the Bills. So I think a lot of Bills fans this week are, reminiscing on the Daboll days, whether or not they should be.
Yeah, I think obviously Daboll left on about as high a note as he could leave. Actually, I would say the Bills were lucky they had him for the 2021 season. He didn't get hired before that season. The Chargers made the mistake of hiring Brandon Staley. Anyway, not to go down that side street. The Bills roared in the playoffs in 2021. I think the Bills offense looks different than then, obviously. But it would look different anyway under Brian Daboll. The offense is a constant evolution. It evolved under Daboll. The Bills took the league by storm in 2020, saw a ton of man coverage. 2021, defenses adjust to the Bills and Kansas City, among others, with elite quarterbacks, show them more shell coverages. And it took a lot of the 2021 season for the Bills to adjust to that. I think there's a perception that, everything was wonderful under Daboll, and it really wasn't. The offense struggled mightily in 2021 to adjust. Think back to that Jacksonville game when, they lost 9-6, and that was, a 2-pass heavy. Brian lost all confidence, in my opinion, in the run game that day, and the Bills got their heads handed to them. But they adjusted, and all credit to Brian Daboll. But, the Bills are in the development process of adjusting to still keeping the big plays, but incorporating a better, more consistent underneath game. And I think Ken Dorsey has done a good job of that, but it's still a work in progress, like every team's offense.
It would have evolved based off personnel too. You look at how the Bills went out and drafted Dalton Kincaid. With Brian Daboll, with Ken Dorsey last year, they were at the bottom in their usage of 12 personnel. among the bottom with Brian Daboll too. So that shifted this team's look already just based off who they have there. If they had drafted him under Brian Daboll, that would have changed the offense as well. So there's not a way to perfectly compare, oh, if you just plugged Brian Daboll back into this offense right now, what would it look like? But to your point, yeah, it would have changed no matter what. So when we look at how the Bills are looking right now, I mean, they struggled to convert third downs on Sunday against the Jaguars, especially early on, going 3 and out so many times, uncharacteristic of what we've seen of them at other times. And so, I don't think that's necessarily as simple as a Ken Dorsey, Brian Daboll, you switch them off, what happens? But I think it is just an interesting matchup from that standpoint when you're coming off of a game where the Bills offense was, not what it can be.
Yeah, I think the one thing that was, I think, needs to improve, or it was troubling in London, and was troubling throughout the 2021 season with Daboll, was rushing efficiency. So I know Josh missed. There were some, third down incomplete passes, a couple big drops, but I'm not quite. I'm still scratching my head. The running game had been pretty good. Should have been better against Jacksonville. Was terrible. And when it was terrible under Daboll, that was a problem. So I'm kind of. I want to see where it goes. How much was the Bills' lack of energy? Jacksonville beat them on the line of scrimmage. They need to solve whatever it was. The Bills' run game coordination under Aaron Kromer, because he designs the run game, needs to be better and or get back on track after the 1 week setback. And we'll see if it's just a 1 week setback, but that's going to be a key going forward. They can't run as poorly as they did against Jacksonville.
The New York Giants, after an exciting year last year where Brian Daboll was coach of the year, they made it to the playoffs, are now 1-4 to start the year. So they're struggling kind of all over. Let's start with their offense, though, Mark. What are you seeing there?
What I'm seeing is they should give the Coach of the Year award to Brian Daboll again. Not the 2023. They should just take another 2022 Coach of the Award and then give him it again so he can put it in his bathroom or something. Because he made chicken salad out of chicken scratch last year. They weren't that good, and now they still aren't that good, but they're even worse because 4 of their 5 offensive linemen have been various states of injuries. And are still going to be at least somewhat banged up for Sunday's game against the Bills. They've given up 30 sacks already, most in the NFL.
Yeah, you look at their offensive rankings, and a lot of them are in the 30s, not what you want. They are 32nd in yards, 31st in passing, 32nd in sacks allowed, as you said, 31st in points. They are 23rd in rushing, so that's at least not in the 30s, but those are just not numbers you want at all. They are struggling on offense greatly.
Yeah, and so what does that say? It's about the players. The game is about the players way more than the coaches. So, it's really, okay, so let's focus on this Sunday's game. What do the Giants do? The Bills, despite their defensive injuries, have a great defensive line. I don't think that's an exaggeration, or of an outstanding defensive line. And that's the big, huge, giant, colossal mismatch in this game. The Giants have to run the ball. They just have to. I mean, they can't get in 3rd and long because Daniel Jones will get killed, presuming he plays.
Yeah, they've had injuries all over. Saquon Barkley's missed the last 3 games with that high ankle sprain. Could potentially play this week, which obviously makes a difference when you need to run it. But yeah, they've been banged up all over.
I think we're going to see some trick play. I mean, it's time that Daboll needs to pull out all the stops. You're going to see, they do a lot of bootlegs, a lot of eye candy. They need to do some trickeration. They need to get the run game going. They need to hold the ball. You can't give the Bills too many possessions. They need to hold the ball. The defense needs to get some Josh Allen turnovers. That's the only way.
When you mentioned the defense, then what stands out to you there, Mark?
Well, the defensive coordinator Don Wink Martindale, also known as the third Ryan brother, super tight with Rex and Rob Ryan, and that's his MO: bring the house, send the house. They led the league in blitz percentage last year, 38%. They generally don't change. Interestingly, and thank God they did change last week against Miami, against the fastest show on turf. He blitzed Tua only 4 times. But his MO is to blitz. The Bills handled the blitz poorly in Jacksonville, which I wrote about this week. You can find it on buffalonews.com. If I'm Whit Martindale, I test the Bills' protectors. I send some 5-man pressures at Josh.
Yeah, they've given up explosive plays and kind of that boom bust defense style, which is interesting against the Bills, obviously, from a matchup standpoint. But they have been able to adjust to your point of what they did blitzing wise versus Miami, which, shifts away from their general percentage.
Yeah. And, they're playing the matchups are the strength of their defense is their 2 big, beefy defensive tackles. Great. Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams. Awesome. Bills are going to have a tough time running up the middle. But, their defense has low rankings because they're getting no support from the offense. So defense ranked 27th, 30th against the rush, which I think is just a function partly of the fact the offense has helped so little. The Bills, Josh Allen, like against the Josh Allen needs to protect the ball. If the Bills make no turnovers, they're winning this game.
Yeah, I think just based off how it matches up in so many categories, the Bills clearly have the edge here. I know they're coming off of a game where they didn't look like themselves, but if they can bounce back, look like they did before, then it should be a pretty easy, I don't want to say easy just because it's the NFL, but it's a winnable game at home. Sunday Night Football should be very exciting. We'll have all your coverage leading up to that primetime game on buffalonews.com and more coverage after as well. So make sure you're reading there and subscribing to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Treat your team to the most flavorful pizza on game day at Picasso's Pizza. 4 great Western New York locations: Williamsville, West Seneca, Lancaster, and Blaisdell. Picasso's. We are Buffalo's Pizza since 1980. Order online today at picassospizza.net.